welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. I hate this time of the year. August, September, and October, I mean. This is pretty much where Hollywood dumps all their junk besides The World's End and The Butler. Right between summer season and awards season. They just lay it all there and say, hey, go see it, give us money. That being said, Riddick is rated R, so I can't review it. So I'm going to recommend one of my favorite movies to y'all that I feel doesn't get enough recognition. It's called The Prestige. My favorite movie is The Dark Knight, and this is a very close second. It's the story of two magicians in the 1900s who try to figure out each other's secrets as one discovers the ultimate magic trick. This movie is nothing short of breathtaking. It itself feels like a magic trick as it twists and turns, fooling you every step of the way, leaving your mouth agape at the lengths these characters will go to preserve their secrets. It is written and directed by the prestigious Christopher Nolan, who you may know as the director of the Dark Knight trilogy and Inception. This and The Dark Knight are definitely his best works. I can't do it justice without spoiling it, but go see it, take my word for it. Do as I say! Okay, that's it for me today. I'm really sorry I can't put out better content for you guys, but I mean, at this time of the year, 80% of the movies are rated R and the other 20% are really terrible. So, I'm doing my best here, and see you next week. Hello and welcome back to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Over the weekend, I saw two movies, Prisoners and The Wizard of Oz in IMAX 3D. The Wizard of Oz is perhaps the weirdest kids film to come out since the Oogie Loves and the Big Balloon Adventure. The film is about a girl named Dorothy who is whisked away to a magical musical land full of monkeys, wicked witches, mentally disabled ents, little people who give away free lollipops, and all sorts of anthropomorphic animals and objects. I use the word whisked loosely. What I mean by that is she goes to this magical land by getting hit in the head with a window pane. Hard. I don't know about you, but if I got blindsided by a freaking window and started seeing munchkins and talking lions, I'd probably have serious brain damage. Once Dorothy gets to Oz, she embarks on a perilous journey to go see the ruler of the land, the Wizard of Oz, in order to get back home. On the way, she meets a bunch of freeloaders, including a talking scarecrow, some weird robot thing, and a lion who's a huge... That's too easy. They eventually get to the Kingdom of Oz, and the wizard tells them they have to kill the Wicked Witch of the West in order to get back home. So they go to the Wicked Witch's castle, and they kill her with, bet you can't guess, not a wooden stake, not burning her at the stake, but with a bucket of water. Didn't work for Signs, also doesn't work for this movie. They throw water on her, and she melts like a stick of butter. I don't know either. So they go back to the wizard. He turns out to be just some normal dude instead of a floating Gary Busey head, and he leaves on his balloon thingy. Then the creepy good witch from the beginning comes back and tells Dorothy she could have gone home at any time. All she had to do was click her heels and say, "There's no place like home." No! You're telling me that she wasted days on this journey and probably risked her life like 3 times, and she could have gone home whenever she wanted? The movie ends with her waking up in a feverish stupor and greeting her family. The end. This is the strangest, most pointless movie I've seen in a long time. 2 out of 10. Only go see it if you have nothing better to do. Now, if I was a cold-hearted pig with no childhood, that would have been my review. This movie is a timeless classic that will always be adored by film fans everywhere. Please disregard everything I just said. This film is an indisputable 10 out of 10. See you next time on Guerilla Wolf Movie News. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. A few weeks ago, we had 2 major movies come out. Runner and Sandra Bullock in Space. Obviously, the one I'm going to be reviewing on this fine Monday morning is Sandra Bullock in... Obviously, the one I'm going to be reviewing on this fine Monday morning is Gravity. Gravity is a science fiction thriller directed by Alfonso Cuarón, who you may remember from Harry Potter and the Holy Crap Ton of Dementors. The film stars Sandra Bullock, George Clooney, aka not Batman, and Ed Harris, who has about 3 lines. The majority of the film, however, revolves around Sandra Bullock as she tries to survive from the evil Russian space debris. This film is definitely an edge-of-your-seat thriller as it features non-stop blood-pumping action, all in the vacuum of space. While it did, for the most part, what it set out to accomplish, I feel like it didn't reach its full potential. You see, Sandra Bullock is the kind of actress that works best when bouncing off of others, such as in The Heat, The Blind Side, and Crash. And this movie puts her in a 2x-2 chamber all by herself for most of it. It probably would have helped if she had some character behind her, but all we hear about her is that she had some kid that died. Tragic backstory does not make character, Mr. Quaron. Other than these small problems, this film is truly exceptional. The breathtaking visuals and camera work really suck you into the atmosphere, or should I say, the exosphere. In short, Gravity is a solid 9 out of 10. Definitely see it if you can. I'm still Parker Layman. Hello and welcome to a very special Halloween episode of Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. It's Halloween, so I guess I'll have to review something Halloween-y. Let's see. Carrie? No, it's rated R. Captain Phillips? Nah, that's stupid. How about Insidious Chapter 2? Insidious Chapter 2 is the latest film from producer Jason Blum, who you may remember from Paranormal Activity 1, 2, 3, and Paranormal Activity 4. Joining him is director James Wan, who will be directing Fast and Furious 7 next year. His last film, The Conjuring, came out a few months ago, and while I can't recommend it, it is available on DVD and Blu-ray in stores everywhere. This film follows the continuing hijinks of the Lambert family, who is recovering from their son being possessed by a demonic entity. In the last movie, in order to save his son, Patrick Wilson had to go into a spirit realm called the Further and bring him back. What he did not know, however, was something came back with him. And let me tell you, this film is scary. Upon leaving the theater, my jaw was sore from clenching my teeth so much. This film kept me on the edge of my seat throughout its entire 1 hour 46 minute runtime. Heck, I wasn't even on my seat. I was hovering above my seat, ready to sprint out of the theater at any time. The only major problem I have with this movie is the writing, specifically the dialogue. The way people talk in this movie, it's not natural. So overall, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Definitely go see it if you're looking for a good Halloween scare. Until next time, I'm Parker.
Do you have any movies you're looking forward to this year?
Ender's Game.
Ender's Game, yes.
I don't know. All right.
The Hobbit.
The Hobbit
Part 2.
yes.
Batman vs. Superman.
Anchorman 2, for sure.
The Anchorman 2.
All right then. This fellow just got out of bed. What movie are you most looking forward to this year?
I'm looking forward to a good movie.
Like 47 Ronin? Nobody says 47 Ronin. It looks awesome to me. 47 Ronin, there you go.
I think I'm gonna watch that movie because you told me to.
Movie 47 Ronin?
Because you told me to.
Good.
Excellent. Great.
Nemo 2. Nemo 2 is in 2015.
The Hobbit.
The Hobbit, yes. Anchorman Part 2.
Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. We're finally starting to dig into blockbuster November. I mean, you got Thor: The Dark World, The Book Thief, Hunger Games: Catching Fire, Disney's Frozen, Spike Lee's Old Boy, and the list goes on and on. And what better way to kick this all off than with a film almost 20 years in the making? That's right, I'm talking about Ender's Game. Ender's Game is based on the novel of the same name by Orson Scott Card, which also happens to be one of my favorite books of all time. That being said, you can understand my confusion and downright frustration when they got Gavin Hood to direct it. You may remember Gavin Hood from X-Men Origins Wolverine. On the flip side, however, Gavin Hood also made the film Satsi, which won the Best Foreign Language Film at the Oscars in 2006. So how was the movie? Well, if you haven't read the book, it's great. But if you have, you might be in trouble. Let me explain. Ender's Game, the book, is a very character-driven and emotional story. Ender's Game, the movie, is not. Ender's Game, the movie, glosses over character and emotion in favor of story and visuals. And the story of Ender's Game is not that great. What made the story interesting was the characters' emotional arcs. And in the movie, it's just not there. As a result, you are less invested in the film as a whole. So in short, Ender's Game feels rushed and emotionally dulled and probably should have been an hour longer. But if you're a dribbling troglodyte who doesn't like to read books, this is the movie for you. So overall, I give it a 6 out of 10. I would say go see it, but why would you when Thor: The Dark World is out? Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Thor: The Dark World is the latest blockbuster with the word dark in the title, and it stars Chris Hemsworth, Natalie Portman, Tom Hiddleston, and Anthony Hopkins as Odin. It is directed by Alan Taylor, who has directed episodes of Game of Thrones and The Sopranos, and will be directing the Terminator sequel reboot thing in 2015. Now, with this being a Marvel movie, people have come to expect a fun, action-packed popcorn movie that is true to its source material. You know, like Iron Man 3 wasn't. People will be happy to know that they will be very satisfied with this film. While the first act feels very dull and rushed, the movie gets much better with the introduction of the Dark Elves. These guys are awesome. They're led by Malekith the Accursed, played by Christopher Eccleston, and his hulking right-hand man, Curse, played by... oh, Lord. Adewale Akinoyi Agbaje. That guy desperately needs a stage name. So Malekith wants to take over / destroy the universe, so he uses the convergence of the 9 realms to conquer / destroy it. It's never really explained what the heck he wants to do. Regardless, this film was, in a word, awesome. The fights were great, the 9 realms were interesting, and Loki totally steals the movie. Too bad he dies.
You blew it.
Plus, there's a little teaser for Guardians of the Galaxy after the credits, and if you don't know who Guardians of the Galaxy is, you're not the only one. So overall, I give Thor: The Dark World 8 out of 10. Go see it while you're counting the days till catching fire. 4 more days. Until next time,
I'm not Parker Layman.
hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Well, folks, it finally happened. In a year full of films trying to be nothing more than what they were expected to be, we finally have one that fulfills our very high expectations. That's right, I'm talking about Delivery Man. Wait, that's not right. I'm talking about The Hunger Games Catching Fire. Catching Fire is the second film in the Hunger Games quadrilogy and stars Jennifer Lawrence, Josh Hutcherson, Woody Harrelson, and Philip Seymour Hoffman, and is directed by I Am Legend director Francis Lawrence. I'm going to go right off the bat by saying this is the best blockbuster release this year, even better than Man of Steel in my opinion. Thanks. The cast all completely killed it, particularly Donald Sutherland as President Snow and Sam Claflin as Finnick Odair. I can't say much about the plot because the trailers don't show much of the Quarter Quell. I can, however, say Quarter Quell as much as I want to because guys who haven't read the book don't know what I'm talking about. Quarter Quell, Quarter Quell, Quarter Quell. I can also say that the film follows the continuing hijinks of Katniss Everdeen and her zany compatriots Peeta momentarily friend-zoned and Haymitch Where's the Bar. I cannot stress how thoroughly this movie knocked it out of the park. The writing was great, the directing was excellent, the acting was fantastic, the cinematography was glorious, and the ending left me licking the screen in anticipation. Ew. So overall, I give it a 10 out of 10, but a cautious one. We'll see what the future holds. May the odds be ever in your favor, Lionsgate. In the meantime, I'm still Parker Layman. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Christmas has always been my favorite time of the year. It's a time of giving, a time of friendship, and a time when all the studios cram in their last-minute Oscar contenders. Yes, it's always been my favorite time of the movie year, and this one was especially sweet, because this year we had six major releases on Christmas Day. So I thought I would indulge myself. Without further ado, it's the very, very late Guerilla Wolves Movie News Post-Christmas Spectacular. So let's dive right in. First up is 47 Ronin. This movie is eating crow at the box office. It cost Universal Studios $200 million to make and only made $20.6 its first weekend. But does it deserve its failure? This film was a very risky move for Universal as it stars mainly Japanese actors and a dude who hasn't acted in an action film since 2005's Constantine. Ultimately, all the risks were for doo-doo because this movie is yawn-inducingly boring. Remember all the action scenes in the trailer? That's all the action in the entire movie. 70% of the 2-hour movie is just bland characters talking about bland things. But the action was cool, so I'll give it a 4 out of 10. I am disappointed by this one. Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy was one of the most quoted movies of the last decade. So naturally, Anchorman 2 had a lot to live up to. And it did not. Some people may disagree with me on this part, but the general consensus seems to be the first hour is hilarious. And the rest of the movie, No one really remembers what happened, and frankly, I don't either. There's a weird battle sequence toward the end that has buckets of celebrity cameos and a Minotaur and Steve Carell with a giant laser gun, and really, while it was funny in the first movie, it really isn't here. Overall, this movie tries, but it ends up being one of Will Ferrell and Adam McKay's worst, so I give it a 4 out of 10. A Madea Christmas sucks, 1 out of 10. Moving on. Some were worried about the Hobbit series after an unexpected journey failed to connect with die-hard Tolkien fans such as myself. But I have learned my lesson. I will never, ever, ever doubt Peter Jackson again. As I was watching The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, it was difficult to keep my jaw off the ground. Seriously, if you haven't seen this movie, go to Guidance, check out Sick, and buy yourself a ticket. A rare 10 out of 10 from me. And now we come to the Christmas-time family film that's not Frozen, Walking with Dinosaurs 3D. This movie's one of the biggest piles of steaming dung I have ever seen in my entire life! The dialogue is so badly written, it's like it was written in Portuguese, translated to Klingon, then to Italian, and adapted to English by Claudio Fragasso. Sorry you had to see that. Shame on you, 20th Century Fox, for thinking kids are stupid enough to see such a bad movie. My very first 0 out of 10. Woe unto you! Well, I hope you all enjoyed your Christmas/Hanukkah/Kwanzaa/Festivus, because I certainly did. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. You know, I really hate January. You probably thought Walking with Dino Crap was the worst it would ever get. You probably thought I'd never review another film that bad. And yet, the very next week, we have The Legend of Hercules! Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. You know, last January was bad, what with Texas Chainsaw 3D, Gangster Squad, Parker, Movie 43, and so on. This film alone is almost worse than the entire month of January 2013. The film is helmed by Die Hard 2 director Renny Harlin, and if you can name any of the actors in the film, I'll give you a nickel. I wish I could tell you more, but there's nothing else to tell. It's basically just Hercules. Stop throwing things at me! Each of the 5 seconds in the film are probably 45 seconds apiece, but they're extended to about 2 minutes because of the excessive use of slow motion. Literally, every hit is followed by a few seconds of slow motion throughout the entire movie. This film is currently rocking a 3.9 on IMDb and a 4% on Rotten Tomatoes. That is Medusa. And now it can add one more score to its menagerie. 0 out of 10. My second consecutive one. God help us all. Or at least, Jack Ryan help us all. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Today we're going to discuss a very hot topic in Hollywood, and that's Man of Steel 2. Or Batman vs. Superman, or Justice League, or... There's no official title yet. Batman vs. Superman is the sequel to the 2013 Superman reboot, Man of Steel, and it stars Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck, and Amy Adams. I really loved the first Man of Steel movie, which is why the newest developments in this project are kind of worrying me. Basically, the only reason I'm doing this episode is the recent casting decision as to who's going to play Lex Luthor. I wish I could tell you that Superman's nemesis was going to be played by Breaking Bad star Bryan Cranston or Dexter star Michael C. Hall. But instead, we get The Social Network and Zombieland star Jesse Eisenberg. I'm just dumbfounded by how thoroughly they missed the mark here. I mean, Lex Luthor is supposed to be physically imposing. Jesse Eisenberg is 5'7", 143 pounds. Lex Luthor is supposed to be bald. Jesse Eisenberg has a big old Ronald McDonald mop of hair. Lex Luthor is supposed to look intimidating. Jesse Eisenberg looks like Andy Samberg and Michael Cera's love child. I mean, there are just so many better choices that could have been made. Older, more seasoned actors could have played this role. I mean, why have Eisenberg when you could have Heisenberg? This casting decision has led me to believe that this whole movie is just a big gravy train to get Warner Brothers a whole lot of money. But we'll never know, at least until the first trailer premieres in late 2015. Until then, I'm still Parker Layman.
Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman.
John, what are you doing? Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Is it just me or are kids' movies getting worse and worse? I mean, just in the past 6 months, we've had The Nut Job, Walking with Dinosaurs, Freebirds, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2, The Wolf of Wall Street, Smurfs 2, Percy Jackson 2. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. This wouldn't really be a problem with me if I didn't have a 7-year-old sister who just loves these types of movies. Get out of here, John. That's why it's so refreshing to finally have a truly great kids movie. That's right, I'm talking about the Lego Movie.
Everything is awesome.
Oh my gosh, I love this song.
It's cool when you're part of the team. Everything is awesome.
No, guys, wait up. Where am I?
Come with me if you want to not die.
The Lego Movie comes to us from the directors of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 1 and the 21 Jump Street movies. It stars the voices of Morgan Freeman, Elizabeth Banks, Will Arnett, and Chris Pratt as Emmett. This is one of the most perfect animated films I've seen outside of Disney Pixar. I mean, they got everything right. The casting, the writing, the humor, the animation. Good gourd, the animation is incredible. The animators rendered everything, right down to the little plastic bumps and scratches on the Lego figure's hair. The story follows Emmett, an exceedingly unremarkable Lego figure who lives in the city of Bricksburg under the tyrannical rule of Lord Business, played by Will Ferrell. When he discovers a MacGuffin that can topple Lord Business's empire, he's swept into the Resistance where he fights beside a blind wizard, a unicorn cat, Batman, and an adventurous girl named Wildstyle.
Robots, destroy him. We'll wing it. That's a bat pun.
Now I know that sounds like a bunch of adjectives and nouns pulled out of a hat, but the story's craziness is actually handled quite well and you buy into the situations almost immediately. One of the real strong points of the film is how well the characters are written. I think my personal favorite is Batman. Will Arnett is flippin' hilarious as Batman.
Relax, everybody. I'm here. Batman? Awesome!
Who are you here to see?
I'm here to see your butt.
Oh my gosh!
Pow. Wham. First try.
Not to mention the amount of crossovers in this movie. This is probably the only time you're gonna see Dumbledore and Gandalf on screen together. Not to mention Batman partying on the Millennium Falcon. I mean, come on. Overall, this film is better than all of the kids' films in 2013 combined. So I give this movie a... Wait, people are always accusing me of either giving a movie a 0 or a 10 out of 10. I give it a 9 out of 10. No, this movie deserves a 10. Sorry, haters. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman.
To the Batmobile. Dang it.
To the invisible jet! Dang it.
Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie Wait, I'm not supposed to be here. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Well, it's finally Oscar week, so I figured I should throw in my 2 cents on who I think should win and who I think got snubbed. Let's begin with the best screenplay category. As far as the best adapted screenplay category goes, there are a ton of strong players here, such as The Wolf of Wall Street, 12 Years a Slave, and Captain Phillips, but I think this one's gonna go to Before Midnight. The screenplay for Before Midnight completely made the movie, and the dialogue was so natural that the characters actually felt like real people. That's why I think it should win. As far as original screenplay, it's pretty much a toss-up between 3 movies: American Hustle, Blue Jasmine, and Her. Her ended up winning the Golden Globe, so I kind of want to say that it'll take it, but knowing how much the Academy loves David O. Russell, it's probably going to be American Hustle. As far as who I think got snubbed for this category, I'm going to have to say August Osage County. The screenplay for that movie was absolutely incredible, and I wish there were more like it. Plus, Tracy Letts could use an Oscar. Now on to the best directing category. This category is jam-packed with talented filmmakers, from Martin Scorsese to Steve McQueen to Alfonso Cuarón and David O. Hustle for American Russell. As far as who I think will get the Oscar, it'll probably be Alfonso Cuarón for Gravity, because if for nothing else, Gravity is a beautifully directed movie.
But I feel like Steve McQueen should be the one to get it for 12 Years a Slave because the actors were so real in their acting that it felt real. Prisoners was my favorite movie of last year, and it really makes me angry that it does not show up anywhere in these nominations other than cinematography. And no one cares about cinematography. Now, the best actor and actress race is a packed one. I mean, you got so many talented people in these categories. But if I had to pick one for each, I'd say probably Matthew McConaughey for Dallas Buyers Club for lead actor. Supporting actor, again, Dallas Buyers Club, Jared Leto. I'd have to say for actress, I'm gonna pick Cate Blanchett for Blue Jasmine. For best supporting actress, Lupita Nyong'o for 12 Years a Slave. She was absolutely amazing. Supporting actor is probably gonna be Jared Leto. And best actor, here's where it gets difficult. The best actor category is almost impossible to choose. You got Christian Bale, Bruce Dern, Leonardo DiCaprio, Chiwetel Ejiofor, and Matthew McConaughey. All of these people are extremely talented actors, and each of their performances was different and unique in its own way. But if I had to choose one, it would probably be Matthew McConaughey, just because it would give his career such a boost, and he's such a fantastic actor. I want to see more of him. So, I'm gonna say Matthew McConaughey. Sorry, Leo. As far as who I think got snubbed for the Best Picture category, I'm gonna have to say, once again, Prisoners, my absolute favorite movie of the year. If you haven't seen it, I can't say check it out because it's rated R. Don't not check it out. As far as who I think got snubbed in the acting categories, I'm gonna have to say for lead actor, Hugh Jackman for Prisoners. Also, for best supporting actress, I'd have to say Maria Bello. She was absolutely excellent, again, in Prisoners. And for best supporting actor, I want to say Woody Harrelson from Out of the Furnace. If you haven't seen Out of the Furnace, it's an excellent film, and Woody Harrelson completely transforms into his character. Now on to the Best Picture category. You got American Hustle, Captain Phillips, Dallas Buyers Club, Gravity, Her, Nebraska, Philomena, 12 Years a Slave, and The Wolf of Wall Street. Again, this is a category that is extremely, extremely hard to pick from. All of these movies were excellent in their own different way, and it's really not fair to compare them against each other. But knowing how the Academy works, this is a three-way battle between American Hustle, Gravity, and 12 Years a Slave. As far as who I think will win, I think 12 Years a Slave. Because while people may have problems with American Hustle and say that Gravity has no substance, 12 Years a Slave is the most technically perfect movie out of all of these. So, I think it'll end up taking home the gold. This is all speculation, and we'll see what happens on Oscar Sunday. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. Hello and where's my mug? Where's my mug? Someone give me my mug! Thank you. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Why can't the good fan fictions get turned into movies? I mean, we have a Mortal Instruments movie, 50 Shades of Grey movie coming in 2015, and now we have Divergent, a veritable Frankenstein's monster of plot elements from more successful books. Divergent is the latest film in the young adult craze that stars up-and-coming actors such as Shailene Woodley, Theo James, Miles Teller, and veterans such as Kate Winslet and Ashley Judd. It is directed by Limitless director Neil Berger and written by Snow White and the Huntsman scribe Evan Daughtry and Hope Springs writer Vanessa Taylor. As you can tell, I feel that this film is a mixed bag. Neil Berger directs wonderfully but is inhibited by the bland cinematography. Shailene Woodley gives a fantastic performance but is bogged down by her robotic co-star Theo James and the paint-by-numbers script. The major drawback of this movie is the novel that it's based on. It borrows the districts and future society from the Hunger Games, the long training segments from Ender's Game, the uninteresting romantic subplot from Twilight, the dream-walking sequences from Inception, and the freaking mind control plot from the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. Yes, I went there. Regardless of the story's many flaws, it still held my interest thanks to Neil Berger's fantastic directing and Shailene Woodley's excellent performance. But it still doesn't change the fact that this movie is a well-oiled money-making machine. It takes things that made other young adult adaptations popular and cooks them up into a potpourri of young adult teen angst that will have teenage girls rushing to the theater. There are just so many better young adult novels that could have been adapted for the screen. I got a list right here. the Everlost trilogy, the Atherton books, the Unwind books, Speaker for the Dead and the Other Ender books, Hatchet, Storm Thief. Heck, how about an Alex Rider reboot? Stop taking the safe route and take some risks for once, Hollywood. So overall, it has its moments, but the very existence of this movie disgusts me. So I give it a 4.5 out of 10. What? Not really worth seeing. And to the adamant fans of the Divergent books, read any of the titles I just mentioned. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Did you hear something? Let's talk about Darren Aronofsky. He's the director of such masterful films as Requiem for a Dream, The Wrestler, and Black Swan. Studios have been circling him for years trying to get him to do a big budget film, but he's consistently backed out of every project. He almost made Batman Begins, Man of Steel, Wolverine, Iron Man, and RoboCop, to name a few. So what was the big budget film that Aronofsky finally chose? His own passion project, Noah, based on the story from the book of Genesis. Noah stars Russell Crowe as its titular character, Jennifer Connelly as his wife Name, Anthony Hopkins as Methuselah, Logan Lerman as Not-So-Heavenly Ham, and Emma Watson as Eli. This film is getting a lot of controversy for the liberties that it takes with the source material, but to be honest, for better or for worse, it's very biblically accurate. The film just developed the character of Noah a little more and filled in the gaps that were left by the story. There's one thing in this movie that people consistently have beef with, and those of you who have seen it know exactly what I'm talking about. But the inclusion of the fallen angels isn't exactly all complete weirdness. Aronofsky actually pulled the inspiration for them from the non-canonical Book of Enoch, which tells the story of angels that were cast out of heaven for sympathizing with the humans when they learned that God was going to sneeze all over the earth. But how was the movie? I thought it was excellent. It turned the story of Noah into a massive, haunting epic that is incredible to watch. Noah is portrayed as a very complex character, with the moral decisions he's forced to make reducing him to a blubbering, drunken stupor by the film's end. So basically, Russell Crowe in real life. So overall, I give this movie a 9 out of 10. Everyone should see it. I think it's fantastic. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. Wasn't I just here? For a while there, it seemed like the Marvel movies after the Avengers were going to be consistently subpar, because Iron Man 3 and Thor 2, while they were entertaining movies, didn't really have any effect on the universe as a whole. Then along comes Captain America. Finally, a Marvel movie that actually continues the story from the Avengers instead of just acknowledging that it happened. Captain America stars Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, Samuel L. Jackson, and Robert Redford as Alexander Pierce. Here's something you didn't know. It's directed by You, Me, and Dupree, Arrested Development, and Community helmers Anthony and Joe Russo. Why? No ding-dong idea. This movie's probably the best solo Marvel movie since Iron Man. It's well written, has great emotional conflict, and the Winter Soldier is a bad dude. He's a lot like Nemesis from Resident Evil 3. He shows up out of nowhere, beats the snot out of Cap, and then leaves just as soon as he arrived. Seriously, the beginning of this movie, this dude is really cool. His best scene by far is when he blows up that car and dodges it like a matador, and then he had to open his mouth. Seriously, if the Winter Soldier had not said a single word throughout this entire movie, he'd be one of the greatest villains ever. But I guess it's necessary to the story and stuff, so whatever. Everyone else in this movie is totally awesome too. Chris Evans kills it, Scarlett Johansson is ravishing as always, and Samuel L. Jackson is awesome as Nick Fury. If I had to pick out a weak point in this film, it would probably be the direction by the hermanos Russo. The action scenes are spectacular, but everything else is kind of bland. So overall, I give Captain America a 9 out of 10. Definitely worth seeing. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. Hello and welcome back to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. The summer movie season, the creme de la creme of the movie year, filled with exciting blockbusters, fun popcorn movies, and best of all, quality cinema. Let's see what we had this year. I guess that was okay. Could have used a little more Godzilla, but wasn't terrible. Next. I guess that was okay. A little bit much on the villains, but it wasn't terrible. Next. I guess it was okay. It wasn't okay, I think you see the pattern here. This summer was the most unbearably mediocre summer in recent memory, which is almost worse than if it was absolutely horrible. It's like Chinese torture, having what you think will be a good movie dangled in front of you and then getting in the theater and being disappointed every single time. But there were a few good ones as well as a few absolutely horrible ones. So, without further rambling, I give you my best and worst of the summer. This one is a big budget sci-fi romp with humanoid talking animals and starring a television comedian making his first jump to big time cinema. No! Shame on you! It's Guardians of the Galaxy. Seriously though, this movie was a ton of fun. It reminded me that space opera movies can be original and fun again. Take notes, Star Trek Into Darkness. Now on to the fun part, the worst of the summer. I was about this close to putting Michael Boom Boom's Ninja Turds at number 1, but everyone knows that would be a lie. Yes, the worst could only be Transformers 4, Age of Extinction. This movie proves once and for all that the closer Michael Bay is to the camera, the greater the crap factor. Mr. Bay has clearly stopped caring about what makes cinematic sense and just puts on the screen what he thinks looks gnarly. There's literally a scene with black confetti floating around in the wind. Black confetti, like you'd buy at Party City. Why? The sheer lack of anything entertaining in this film is astonishing. All the B-grade action movie cliches are there, from the independent girl who becomes completely helpless at a key moment to the shameless product placements. This film makes the first 3 Transformers movies look like the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Plus, the Dinobots, the whole reason anyone went to see the movie, are only in it for 10 minutes and barely do anything. This movie is the first ever one to earn a -1 out of 10 on Guerilla Wolves Movie News. May God have mercy on your soul, Michael Bay. Or the great Marvin Moneybags, whomever you worship. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Contrary to all my other tastes, I love me a good sports movie. Even though they always end either one way or the other. The team wins, or they don't. When the Game Stands Tall, however, changes up the formula a little bit, giving us a deeper look at those involved in high school football and making it about more than just the game. The film mainly focuses on De La Salle coach Bob Ladouceur, played by Jesus, who suffers a heart attack and as a result ends his team's 151-game winning streak. The film also focuses on some side plots involving the players and assistant coaches. The film is really trying to be Friday Night Lights, and in some cases, it comes close. The players are dealt with in a mature and honest way, and the emotion is definitely there. But the problem is, sometimes there's way too much of it. Unfortunately, this film suffers from the same plague that others this year did. Meh-itis. But those other films didn't try enough. This one tried way too hard. At multiple random points in the movie, some character that you don't remember meeting or caring about goes on an extended monologue about the human condition, and you find yourself not caring. And ultimately, while the film does try to play off Friday Night Lights' formula, it is ultimately still a formula, and the film is, as a result, formulaic. I give it a 5 out of 10. Go see it if you want to, but once you leave the theater, you won't remember that you did. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. I'm Parker Layman, this is my Kanye West impression. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. You know, until this past weekend, my life had no meaning. I was lost. I had lost all hope in cinema and that it could be good again. But that was until I saw the masterpiece of modern celluloid that is Dolphin Tale 2. This film, this work of art, stars Morgan Freeman, Ashley Judd, Harry Connick Jr., and Chris Christopherson. Never before have I experienced such catharsis from a film. It delves into every aspect of human emotion, from overwhelming joy to soul-crushing sadness. All of the actors slip effortlessly into their roles, with Morgan Freeman by far supplying the best performance of his career as a drug addict who learns to love again through a baby dolphin named Hope. The script by J.R.R. Tolkien is as close to perfect as a work of art can get, providing us with quotes that will stick to us to our deathbeds. In short, this film tops any other that I've ever seen, and likely will ever see for the rest of my days. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. I'm just kidding, the film is bogus, don't waste your time. Hello, and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman.
You know, there are two parts of the year that I despise. The first one is the first half of January. The other one is August through October. These are known as the movie doldrums, where Hollywood likes to dump its steamiest piles of dung. I mean, you saw what happened last week when I was forced to review Dolphin Tale 2 because it was the only thing that came out. Not that these films were bad per se, they were just boring. I mean, No Good Deed, The Identical, and whatever that Liam Neeson thing is, were the only real big movies that were released this month. Well, that and a little thing called The Maze Runner. Will this film be the one to shake us out of this lull? Let's find out. The Maze Runner is based on the young adult novel of the same name. Wait, I already know what's gonna happen here. Some dude's gonna find himself in a harsh environment, flounder at first, and then eventually lead his people to freedom. Like every other young adult novel. Am I wrong? I mean, it seems like every single young adult novel blockbuster follows the same Harry Potter formula. I mean, you got Mortal Instruments, Divergent, The Host, The Giver, The Hunger Games, The Vampire Academy, I Am Number 4, Percy Jackson, If I Stay, The Sisterhood of the Frickin' Traveling Pants. I'm just tired of seeing the same thing over and over again. Because if you look at it, it's all the same plot, just slightly tweaked. Now, the books that these movies are based on don't necessarily do that. They bring enough originality to the table that we can forgive it. But these movies just do the same cut and paste, paint by numbers thing over and over. The Maze Runner is the perfect example of that. It's rushed, devoid of cinematic style or character, but has enough ugly creatures and doleful moping to get us to buy a ticket. Now I know what you're thinking. Yes, I have read the book and I did enjoy it, but this film diverts needlessly from it, eliminating the mystery element that made it such a good read. So I give it a 4 out of 10. Go see it if you got nothing better to do. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. This past week we had two movies come out, Gone Girl and Annabelle. And unfortunately, they're both rated R, so I can't provide an opinion. But I will say that Annabelle is from the director of Mortal Kombat 2 Annihilation, and let you make your own decision. So for now, let's talk about the animation industry. It seems like studios are churning out animated and family films to the point where we have one every couple of weeks. Why? Because they make money. Buckets of it. Laika, however, has been producing stop-motion animation films that kids and adults can enjoy. They made Paranorman and Coraline. Coraline's actually my favorite animated film of all time. Their latest film is The Boxtrolls, and it's been advertising since last September, so naturally I was pretty excited about it. Let me start with the good. Honestly, this film is a visual masterpiece. I've never seen an animated film with so much detail and meticulousness put into it. Visually, this is a film that kids and adults can enjoy. In almost every other aspect, however, no. I think when they were conceptualizing this movie, they thought of the character designs, the sets, and the visuals all first, and then built an hour and 30-minute movie around that. Because I think this film suffers from the same problems that Paranorman did, and that's a bad script. Except for this one, it's that much worse, because the humor is trying way too hard now. And trying way too hard to be adult and disturbing to the point where it seems immature. At one point, a character expresses her desire to see her family slaughtered in front of her. That's a little much. Also, like Paranorman, this is from a pair of first-time directors. The only thing they'd ever made before is a video game, so naturally some of the scenes come off as really awkward, especially with the bad dialogue that they're given. So overall, I give this film a 7 out of 10. Don't miss it just for the visuals, but go in it with no expectations. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Real FX and Relativity Media. These guys have been executing a get-rich-quick scheme over the past few years, and no one seems to be calling them out, so naturally I'm going to be the only one to complain about it. It all started with Hop. Yes, the Easter movie. That one was a huge success. Why, you ask? Because no one had ever made an Easter movie before. Don't get me wrong, it's cancer, but it pulled in some serious stacks. Their next project was Freebirds, a movie about turkeys on Thanksgiving. That film was not as big of a success, but its budget was 40 cents in a bent paper clip, so they made some money back on it. And now we come to their next project, The Book of Life, based on the Mexican holiday Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. I was actually pretty excited about this film because it's from a dude who worked on a cartoon called El Tigre, The Adventures of Manny Rivera, a cartoon that I liked very much as a kid. The problem is this film is directed by the character designer of that cartoon, and that's like the only thing he's ever done. So as a result, the acting is kind of awkward at times, and there are no establishing shots, so it can get pretty confusing when scenes are being edited together. That said, this guy is a genius at character designing, and the character designs are amazing to look at, as well as the sets. Additionally, Ron Perlman and, surprisingly enough, Ice Cube do an amazing job voicing their respective characters, and are the best parts of the movie. Also, Christina Applegate's in this for like 10 seconds, but I mean, she doesn't tell anyone they look like a blueberry, so it's pretty much pointless.
Long story short, this film is definitely watchable, and the third act is leagues better than the first two. So if you could sit through 66% of this movie, you should have a fun time. I give it a 7 out of 10. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Let's talk about Ouija. It stinks, are you surprised? It was only a little while ago when we had horror movies coming out at the same frequency, but they were a whole lot more scary. I mean, you had The Descent, The Grudge, The Ring. Some of those weren't actually good movies, but they scared you, which is an important part of a horror movie. So naturally, as a horror fan, seeing this train wreck of a film hurt me deep inside my soul. But then again, I shouldn't have expected much, considering it comes from the all-great and powerful producer of Paranormal Activity and Michael Boom Boom Bay. And I would shrug this off as just another bad horror movie, but this past weekend, it earned $10.7 million in its third week, tying for the #1 spot with Nightcrawler, a much better movie. Guys, do you realize that when you go to see a Michael Bay movie, you are willingly giving your money to a guy that has disappointed you relentlessly over and over and over again?
Hallelujah.
I guess I should talk about the actual movie. Most of it revolves around high school drama that we don't care an iota about. These characters just talking, blah, 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 blah. They only play with the Ouija board like 3 times, and when they do, something mildly, I guess, maybe creepy happens every time. It's really disappointing. I think the main problem with this movie is that it's not even creepy. It's not even unsettling. It's not even like going in the bathroom stall next to Harrison Prieto creepy. Actually, that's pretty horrifying. So in short, I give this 2.5 out of 10. Do not see it. Just wait for the Babadook. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. I'm just gonna go on Rotten Tomatoes real quick. Fantastic. Explosively entertaining. Top-notch casting and a well-paced slow burn make Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1 the best film in the franchise yet. Are you people out of your minds? It's nothing. Nothing. Nothing happens. Hello and welcome to blah blah blah. You know what this is. When are we as a generation and as a nation going to start taking risks again? Franchises like Star Wars and Harry Potter, which started this whole craze of 2 parts, by the way, got so big because they took a chance. They did something against the grind, something people had never seen before. The studios didn't know whether or not people would want to see space adventures or a little wizard boy, but they put their money into it because they had faith in it. The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1 is the perfect example of not taking a risk. It's formulaic, unoriginal, and worst of all, it's boring. There is no reason this film should be in 2 parts at all. Katniss only fires 1 arrow throughout the entire movie's 2-hour runtime. I haven't been this bored in a blockbuster since After Earth. This film opts for a slow-burning character study of Katniss and an exposition on the rebels' strategies in fighting the Capitol. The only problem is, we don't care. We don't care not only about the rebels, but also about Katniss, because number 1, she's not that good of a character the way they portray her in this movie, and number 2, the writing gives her absolutely nothing to work with. Don't get me wrong, Jennifer Lawrence is a fantastic actress, but there's just nothing here. Not only are the rebels' antics uninteresting, but Katniss herself is uninteresting in this movie. The writing is so bland, it's pretty much interchangeable for any of the characters there. The last film, Catching Fire, was from the writers of 127 Hours and Little Miss Sunshine. Both very good. This one's chiefly from the writer of The Butler, which is still good, but not even close to the tone they're going for. The Butler's dialogue and drama was pulled off because they had a fantastic director behind it. Francis Lawrence, while I do think he's a good director, kind of phones it in with this movie. Not to mention the ending of this movie is really anticlimactic. I'm talking Desolation of Smaug bad. In short, this film feels like a massive collection of deleted scenes, and it's essentially just a trailer for the next movie. So overall,
chicken to it? Oh, damn.
yes. So overall, it's a 4 out of 10. I better not be disappointed by the finale, Lionsgate. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. The Christmas season is normally the next best movie season to summertime. Studios like to squeeze in their Oscar hopefuls just before the end of the year. For highbrow cinema enthusiasts like me, the month of December is a wonderland of sophisticated celluloid. Films like The Interview, Night at the Museum 3, Annie. Okay, this winter season wasn't as good as previous years, but there's still a lot to enjoy. So without further ado, let's take a look at this year's Christmas movies. First up is Exodus: Gods and Kings. Gladiator director Ridley Scott takes a stab at the Moses story. This project had a lot of skepticism surrounding it from the get-go due to the fact that Ridley Scott is, in fact, an atheist. And while I want to say that it isn't evident in the film, it actually really is. Plus, the film's just boring and features uncharacteristically bland performances from Christian Bale and Joel Edgerton. This film expects to be automatically good because of its subject matter, and as a result doesn't try too hard, so it's a 4 out of 10. Just watch the 10 Commandments because the studio should have never let this be written. Next up we have The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies. As a few of you know, Desolation of Smaug was one of my favorite movies of last year, so naturally I was looking forward to this. Which may have been why I was kinda disappointed. I wanted to like it more than I did, but it's jam-packed with unintentionally funny moments and garbage special effects. Garbage. While the film as a whole is still solid, it's not near as good as it needed to be as the defining chapter of the Lord of the Rings saga.
So it earns a 7 out of 10.
Let's see what else we have here. Night at the Museum 3. Do you really care? Annie. Yeah, no. I would rather jab myself in the eyes with an ice pick than see the Annie remake. Unbroken, didn't see it, no way it's as good as the book, so why bother? Okay, here we go, Into the Woods. This film is a musical that intertwines all your favorite fairy tales and blah blah blah, you know the rest. This film is fun, you'll have a good time, it's great music, if you leave at the end of the second act. The third act completely ruins this entire movie. The last act is such a downer and depressing compared to the rest of the movie, and not in an endearing way. I mean, it tears down all the likable characters, makes you hate them. It's just, it's baffling. They were trying to make a statement about how there never really is a happily ever after, but the transition was so jarring and almost non-existent that it really didn't work. So it's a 4 out of 10. Huh. I guess I was wrong about this Christmas having something to enjoy. I'm gonna go watch Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and cry myself to sleep. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. It seems like every January follows a similar formula. Kicks off with a garbage horror movie, and there's a garbage action movie midway through the month, and there's pretty much nothing in between. Last year was Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones, and I, Frankenstein, and this year it's The Woman in Black 2 and Taken 3. I mean, you guys already know my opinion of Taken 2. It's dookie. There's too much shaky cam. It just retreads the first movie. Liam Neeson kills a dude by lightly shoving his face. It's... God, I hate that movie. I mean, when I first saw the trailer for Taken 3, I thought it looked awesome. It's Liam Neeson outsmarting the LAPD. No one gets taken this time around, but I mean, I'd be willing to put up with it. But it just doesn't come together. This film's like a game of Jenga, stacking plot elements on top of each other until it all comes tumbling down in a jumbled, uninteresting wooden mess. That was a good metaphor, high five me. But Parker, it's just a mindless action movie, right? You can put up with it. Wrong! The little action that's in this movie is shot in some of the worst shaky cam I've ever seen in my life. Honestly, it looks like the cameraman keeps getting into tickle fights with the crew members while they're filming. As a result, you can't enjoy the action, so you're forced to focus on the bogus subplots and mysteries when you already know who did it anyway. Honestly, the best way I can describe this film is that it's frustrating. You want to like it, but it's just way too sloppy. Kinda like Mr. Guillory. Yeah! So, fittingly enough, Taken 3 gets a 3 out of 10. Until next time, I need to put some ice on this. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. I'm a little sick right now, so I'm on my raspy, but I'm gonna try to do the best I can. Now, a lot of viewers of Guerilla Wolves Movie News have been complaining to me that most of my reviews are negative and are usually around 4 out of 10. To that I say, you're absolutely correct. Let's mix it up a little bit. The Imitation Game stars Benedict Cumberbatch and Keira Knightley and revolves around Alan Turing, the man who created the first computer to solve an unbreakable Nazi code. This movie's garnering a lot of attention at the Oscars, with Cumberbatch and Knightley both being nominated for their performances, as well as the directing, screenplay, and overall picture being nominated. But does this film deserve all of its accolades? Absolutely. Benedict Cumberbatch portrays Turing with the tact of a veteran, and Keira Knightley, honestly, she's just Keira Knightley. There's nothing really special about her performance. She's just the boring love interest. She doesn't really deserve the nomination at all. Guess someone was trying to get on our good side. But I digress. This film's script is one of the most fantastically written we've had in a while, with a slow-burning plot that leaves no threads unresolved, while also presenting delicious gray area moral conundrums for the audience to play with. Additionally, it's cool to see a story that takes place behind the scenes of World War II. It's interesting to see these guys pull the strings. All in all, this is an excellent movie and it gets a well-deserved 9 out of 10. If you want to know what I think of the other Oscar candidates, including American Sniper, check out my article on the Paper Wolf of my Oscar predictions. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Now I know a lot of you want to know what I thought of the Oscars, so you can check out my article on the Paper Wolf if you're interested in that. Because for now I have to focus on a very important issue. Jupiter Ascending. This movie comes to us from the Wachowski brothers. Well, one of them got a little loopy, so long story short, now they're the Wachowski siblings. And they brought us the Matrix trilogy and Speed Racer and V for Vendetta, a lot of my favorite movies. Because, unlike most people, I actually like the Matrix sequels. You would think since I'm such a fan of their worst material that I would like this new movie. I'm gonna be totally honest with you straight out the gate. This is the worst movie I have seen in several years, as well as the first movie I've ever walked out of since High School Musical 3. Never before have I been so disappointed by a film. I mean, it's an original blockbuster by prolific science fiction filmmakers, and it costed like $176 million. I mean, it was so boring, I took notes during the movie to keep myself entertained. Look, in the film, Channing Tatum is supposed to be this really buff, like, superhuman dude, right? He has his shirt off so much I thought I was watching Magic Mike. Not that I've ever seen Magic Mike. He's supposed to be this super jacked dude, but in this movie, he's honestly a little chubby. You can barely see his abs, and he's got these little biceps. So while you're distracted by that, at one point, he grabs the wing of a spaceship and flies into space and hangs on as the ship goes through a wormhole and ends up at another planet. And then later on in the movie, when he's in space, he's like, "Oh, I can't breathe. Someone save me." It's ridiculous. Oh, here's a good one. During the movie, I watched it in 3D. At one point, I flipped my glasses upside down and watched it so like the background was coming forward and everyone was shooting to the back. And it was cool. It kept me entertained, because the movie didn't. And in terms of acting, Mila Kunis could not care less. She's given so many horrible one-liners, she doesn't even try to make them funny because she knows she can't. And her character's pretty stupid too. At one point, she's on this alien ship talking to this alien dude, and she's like, "Hey, I want to go home." And he goes, "Why don't you marry me instead?" And she goes, "Oh, okay." I'm honestly kind of appalled, and I can't put into words how much I hate this movie and how little I want to see it again. Ladies and gentlemen, I am mortified to announce that this film is worse than Walking with Dinosaurs, and it receives my first ever -1 out of 10. God help us all. Until next time, I don't know who I am anymore. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Now, those of you who've been watching for a while, which is pretty much everybody unless you're Michael Sinapa and miss every other day of school, know that I love horror movies. The only problem with liking horror movies is nowadays most of them are horror. The last one to come out was Woman in Black 2. Did anyone actually see that? No! Well, I did, and I'm pretty sure watching Smurfs 2 in the dark would have been scarier. But I digress. This week we had a film called The Lazarus Effect about a woman who's brought back to life and starts acting weird. The film stars Olivia Wilde, Mark Duplass, and Childish Gambino. It's an unusually star-studded cast for a movie like this. Normally these from the producer of Paranormal Activity movies opt for unknown and cheaper actors. Well, I guess the extra money paid off because this movie's actually really cool. The film really runs with the consequences of playing God, and there's some awesome horror imagery in this. Of course, there are a few boo jump scare moments, but I mean, that has to happen in modern day horror movies, I guess. This film has a really creepy atmosphere as well. Well, at least in the first half, until it devolves into an action thriller like most horror movies like this do. Director David Gelb definitely had a clear vision for this project, as it's very meticulously planned out. I was surprised by how well it was handled, considering his only other movies called Jiro Dreams of Sushi. Unfortunately though, this film is not perfect. Sometimes it's unfocused and sometimes it abandons plots for a cheap scare. It also randomly uses the twist ending from Event Horizon for some reason. But overall, I give it a 6.5 out of 10. It's a solid watch. I almost dropped my cup. Go see it if your spine needs a good chilling. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Now I was going to talk about Cinderella, but I'm going to decide to preserve what little masculinity I have left and just say it's an 8 out of 10 and move on. Instead, I'm going to mix it up a little bit and review the Merriam Players production of Godspell. What? What do you mean I can't do that? What do you mean I'm biased because I'm in the play? I don't follow. Okay, I'll try to keep this review as objective as I can because, I mean, who would want to waste money on a garbage play? Which, thankfully, this is far from. This show is jam-packed with a certain old-school whimsicality that's hard to find anywhere nowadays, and it features stellar performances from its student cast. The music is pretty great, too, as far as show tunes go. The only gripe I would have would be the rap segment, which, as a hip-hop fan, I did not enjoy. But the rest of the music is darn near perfect and actually pretty moving at times. Some of the major songs are performed by St. Paul's own Sam Jaberja, Casey Fitzmaurice, Bradley Del Rio, Justin McCleskey, Ross Albritton, and Shane Davies. Undoubtedly, the best scene of the play is the beautifully executed crucifixion finale. The scene is lit in stark blood red, and the entire cast gestures desperately to Jesus as he's dying on the cross. So in short, this play is undoubtedly a 10 out of 10. Go see it as soon as you can. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman! Stop singing! Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. Spring break!
Hey! It's Easter holidays!
This spring Easter holiday, we had a lot of interesting movies come out, like The Longest Ride. Well, like Fast and Furious 7, for example. Now, when it comes to this movie, everybody thinks that I'm gonna hate it because they take me for some art film freak or something. But honestly, I can enjoy a good popcorn movie, which is exactly what this is. It's different if a movie actively insults your intelligence, but if in a movie people survive something impossible, they're like, hey, I'm fine, and they play it off, then it's kind of funny, and I like it. As long as they don't expect me to take it seriously. And fortunately, this movie, Fast 7, can we just acknowledge something? We have as many Fast and Furious movies as we do Star Wars movies. Something's wrong with that. Fortunately, however, this movie is the best of all 7. It's about time. This one's well structured, it's got an interesting plot, it's got a great villain played by Jason Statham, and an excellent cast of characters that assembles everyone from the previous movies, including Vin Diesel, obviously, The Rock, Ludacris, and the late Paul Walker. Now, when I said earlier that characters survive unsurvivable situations, in this movie, that's very true. Each character probably should have died like 3 times. Like at one point, The Rock drives an ambulance off a bridge into a helicopter and then crawls out of the wreckage with like a little, movie cut on his cheekbone. The one thing that I didn't like about this movie is that Vin Diesel tries to act, and that looks a little awkward to me. For some reason, Vin Diesel likes to say the word family a lot in this movie. He says it roughly 3,470 billion times. And he takes himself so seriously when he's saying this stuff that you want to be like, dude, you're the Iron Giant, calm down. But anyway, this movie's still really entertaining, and I give it an 8 out of 10, which is a lot more than I thought I would. And now on to the other movie that came out over Easter. No, not Unfriended, Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. Can we sit back and address the fact that Adam Sandler has become the Michael Bay of comedy?
Why didn't you just go home? That's your home!
Because when he produces a movie, he goes in it with the intention to not put any effort in it whatsoever, and just put enough pretty stuff in the poster and enough little chuckles in the trailer to get people in seats, and then he doesn't care what they do after that. And maybe if we choose to skip this movie, he'll inundate us with advertising, clobbering us over the head with commercials on Nickelodeon and on ESPN, telling us to go see this trash movie.
And YouTube!
And YouTube. So what is this movie that they're so keen to advertise? What is it about? Well, I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, Kevin James is a large man who rides on a Segway. That is it. This movie is so barren of anything funny. It is the Sahara Desert of comedy movies. There is nothing to be had here. At all. Remember back in 2011 when Adam Sandler made that movie Just Go With It, and he went to Hawaii and like a hotel, and it was kind of clear that he made the movie so he could go on a vacation with his friends and Jennifer Aniston? And then there was Blended, which took place in Africa but had the exact same plot and was at an equally nice resort. So, are you seeing the pattern here? Paul Blart Mall Cop takes place inside of a nice resort in Vegas, and there are so many helicopter shots of this thing, you can tell they paid a pretty penny to get their name out there. Do you see the pattern? Do you see it? Do you see it now? Please, do you see it? For the love of God, do you see the pattern? I am not gonna lie. The first movie, it made me chuckle a few times. Then again, I was in 6th grade. This movie has one joke. Once again, Kevin James, on a segue. Rinse and repeat, maybe give him a bigger segue, maybe make him look bigger, but just rinse, repeat, keep putting it in the movie. Eventually it'll write itself. If you were a white, middle-aged dad whose every bit of happiness is sucked into a desk job and you want to wind down with a movie, this will be perfect for you. But for everyone else, this is a 0.5 out of 10. I honestly don't know why I do this for you people. But until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. Hello and welcome back to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm
John Cena! He's gonna get in the ring!
Hello and welcome back to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Summer is over, but don't fret, because that means a whole other year of Guerilla Wolves Movie News. Are you excited? Well, I am. So let's get started. So let's go over a few of the biggest blockbusters from this year. Ant-Man. A lot of you people have been asking what I think about this movie, so I'm gonna tell you. Like I said with Avengers, this movie is funny, it's full of action, it's very well put together, it's an entertaining villain. And a lot of you people just think that the idea is stupid and that's why you won't see it, but think about Spider-Man. It's almost the exact same thing, but you love that. Plus, who doesn't love ants? Plus, it was co-written by the guy who made Hot Fuzz and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. There are no cons here. Go see it. It's excellent. It's a definite 8.5 out of 10. Okay. The next film is about a group of friends who band together to fight an alien force who takes the form of 80s gaming icons. Sounds cool, right? Starring Adam Sandler and Kevin James. Directed by Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone helmer Chris Columbus, this is a zany adventure for the whole family. Except it's PG-13 and full of typical Sandler sex and toilet humor. Sandler himself plays a loser tech guy, Michelle Monaghan plays the single mom love interest, and in a shocking turn of events, Kevin James plays the President of the United States. There goes the suspension of disbelief. This film's only saving grace is Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones, who hams it up considerably but doesn't do too much else. If you want a further indicator of how badly this movie missed the mark, its original theme song is by Waka Flocka Flame featuring Good Charlotte. And if that isn't a clear indicator that Adam Sandler is laughing in our faces, I don't know what is. This is a 2 out of 10. I don't want to talk about it anymore. And finally, we have one of the most anticipated action movies in recent memory, Jurassic World. Some people love this movie, some people hate this movie, but most of them are missing the point entirely. Because there's dinosaurs! But seriously, there's a whole other movie hidden beneath the surface that people don't know about, and I'm going to tell you about it. I knew when I was watching this movie, and the triumphant Jurassic Park theme tuned in when the camera was panning over a bunch of shops and Starbucks coffee restaurants, that something was wrong here. And that particular choice made me wonder if there was something bigger going on, metaphorically. So here's what I think it is. Studios these days are always trying to revive old 90s franchises that burned out or didn't work, kind of like how Jurassic World revived Jurassic Park. And then these studios will try to bring in a ton of elements from different successful franchises and bring them into the new reboot and make this Frankenstein monster of a movie that ultimately nobody is happy with. Kind of like the dinosaur that they make in the movie by taking a bunch of elements from different dinosaurs. You see where I'm going here? Plus, they intentionally include a ton of 90s cliches like the stuck-up female protagonist who runs around the movie with heels on the whole time. It goes a lot deeper than that, but you get the gist of the metaphor. This is all well and good, but how was the movie? Well, it was very entertaining for an action movie, but ultimately it's kind of ruined by the annoying characters, because there are a lot of them. Like the mom who randomly erupts into crying fits, and the two adventurous boys who go beyond the fence even though it says, "Danger, you will get your face eaten by dinosaurs." They go anyway. Although I do have some problems with this movie, that final fight between the Velociraptors, the T-Rex, and the Indominus, that improved it for me. I feel like if I watch the movie again with the metaphor in mind, I will like it better, but as of right now, it's a 6 out of 10. I do plan on watching it again soon, though. That's all for now. I'll see you next week. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman.
Everyone gets stoned. Everyone gets stoned.
Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Let's talk about M. Night Shyamalan. He's known for making some excellent films such as Unbreakable and The Sixth Sense, but after that he kinda fell off. And by that I mean he made some of the worst movies ever in cinematic history, such as The Happening and The Last Airbender and After Earth, etc., etc. And now we have his new project, which pretty much nobody asked for, produced by Paranormal Activity's Jason Blum, that follows two kids who go to their grandparents' house and hijinks ensue. Many of you may recognize this movie from its iconically goofy line, "Would you mind getting inside the oven to clean it?" Many people thought that this movie was going to be awful because of pretty much that one line, because it's so unintentionally funny. But here's the catch. It's intentionally funny. This movie is actually a comedy. This is actually a horror comedy, which we haven't had a good one in a while, probably since Cabin in the Woods, spoiler alert. Shyamalan seems to have mastered a very valuable skill. He's found a way to turn the stupid on and off. He both uses humor to lull you into a false sense of security and brings it back after a really scary moment to turn it into something hilarious. And it's honestly a near perfect balance of both of those elements. At some parts of this movie I was jumping out of my seat, and in others I was laughing my giblets off, and honestly I can't remember the last time I experienced both of those things in one movie. Acting props go to the grandma, who does a great job of balancing creepy and over the top, and the kid, who is hilarious throughout the entire thing. He plays this kid who wants to be a Tyler the Creator-esque rapper. It's pretty funny. So in short, The Visit is terrifying, side-splittingly funny, and creepy. I see no reason to not give it a 10 out of 10. Actually, I think I've had a change of heart. This one's a 9 out of 10. Until next time, I'm still in pain. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman, and today we're going to discuss Interstellar 2. Well, not really, but this movie and that one both have Matt Damon stranded on an abandoned planet and Jessica Chastain. Coincidence? Probably. The movie I'm talking about is, of course, The Martian, starring Matt Damon, Jessica Chastain, Kristen Wiig, Jeff Daniels, and others. And what makes this movie extra interesting is that it's directed by Ridley Scott, who's known for really dark, gritty, and visceral movies such as Prometheus and Alien and Blade Runner. But this time he takes a more understated, slow-burning, and comedic approach to the sci-fi genre. This film is essentially Castaway in space with a needlessly star-studded cast. I mean, you got Sean Bean, who, number one, doesn't die, which is ridiculous, and is in a scene where they're talking about Lord of the Rings like he wasn't Boromir. And then you also have Michael Pena and Kristen Wiig in pretty much throwaway roles that anyone could have played. Wouldn't it have been cool if Matt Damon found a little Mars rock and then drew a face on it and named it Rocky or something? Actually, that'd be really stupid. I don't know what I'm talking about. The screenplay, written by Cabin in the Woods and Cloverfield scribe Drew Goddard, is laced with lots of humor while also balancing tension very well. Except this movie does get slow in some places, but it's saved by Matt Damon's comedic and very relatable performance. In another comedic role that was a very nice touch, we see Childish Gambino, aka Donald Glover, deliver a very nice and nuanced performance, to sound pretentious. Okay, so anyway, while the first two acts are kind of slow, the third act picks up very well and wraps it up very nicely, and I enjoyed it. I'd say it's a very welcome breath of fresh air during this doldrumic movie season, so I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Remember when Jack Black family films were good? Neither do I. Besides Kung Fu Panda, all of his efforts at family movies have either been flops or been very bad or etc. And it's really a shame because he's such a funny and talented actor. You'd think it would translate well to, kids' entertainment. So now we have his latest family outing, Goosebumps, which comes to us from the director of Gulliver's Travels. We're starting off on the wrong foot already. When this movie was first announced, I was pretty excited because I'm a huge fan of Goosebumps. I'd say I've read 3/4 of the books and watched every episode of the TV show. It's a big part of my childhood, so I really didn't want to see it ruined, which is why when I heard this director announcement, I pretty much threw all my expectations out of the window. So I went into this movie expecting it to be really cheesy, even more cheesy than the TV show, and not in a good way. But I was pleasantly surprised. This film starts out as a paint-by-numbers high school feature, but quickly turns south when the kids accidentally break into the house of Goosebumps writer R.L. Stine and release all of the characters from his books. I think the coolest part of this movie was being able to see all the monsters from the books and TV show come to life in all their terrifying, but PG-rated, glory. The plot of this movie is fairly basic, but what makes it more interesting is the strong villain driving it forward, who happens to be Slappy from Night of the Living Dummy. They do his character really well, as he's portrayed as pretty creepy, but also really goofy at the same time, and is, like I said before, a very interesting villain for the film. The movie kicks into high gear when Slappy messes everything up into pretty much unfixable territory, which makes it more interesting when we see our heroes try and fix it. I'd say the only area where this movie misses is the moral or the twist that it tries to throw in, which, since it emphasizes twists so much in the narrative, it's kind of ironic, but it's just, let me say this. I hate when they kill off a character and then bring him back 10 minutes later. That's really annoying to me. And it pretty much defeats the purpose of killing the character in the first place. And the movie lacks that one really satisfying sweeping shot of all of the monsters that would have made my inner fanboy really happy. But other than that, this is a fun family adventure for the whole family that you can bring your whole family to, and I give it a 7 out of 10. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm dead inside. Now, it's pretty clear to me that a lot of you probably don't care about this movie since it only made back about 1/5 of its total budget of $150 million. But I feel like it's worth talking about because to me, it represents everything wrong with today's movie industry. I am, of course, talking about Pan.
Peter, it's your file. Will you read it? It's from your mom.
The film stars newcomer Levi Miller, Garrett Hedlund, Rooney Mara, and Hugh Jackman as skinhead Robin Hood. Let's touch on Hugh Jackman's role for a minute. Never before, not since Vince Vaughn as Norman Bates in the Psycho remake, have I seen such appalling miscasting. Hugh Jackman seems not only uncomfortable in the role, but he comes off as really unintentionally creepy. So creepy that it makes his major scene with Peter in the first act incredibly uncomfortable. The stranger danger is real, folks. Peter! Now on to another one of the major problems with this film, Captain James Hook. Garrett Hedlund seems to take inspiration not from the original animated movie, but rather from the latest TV show, Jake and the Neverland Pirates, for his role. He's kind of like that incarnation of Captain Hook if he sniffed an entire box of Sharpies in one sitting. He is so laughable and cartoony and absolutely ridiculous in this movie that it could have been Movie of the Year and he still would have ruined it. Shh. I can say without exaggeration and with complete confidence that Garrett Hedlund's performance in this movie might be the worst performance of all time. And the screenplay by Ice Age 4 Continental Drift screenwriter Jason Fuchs is utterly nonsensical. You have characters singing Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana for absolutely no reason at one point. Not to mention the fact that it leaves its characters about as one-dimensional as a coordinate plane. Shout out to the math department.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with that at all. Correction, coordinate planes are actually two-dimensional. I've just been told, so sorry for my idiocy. And now we get to what is the worst aspect of this already atrocious film. As many of you know, the original animated Peter Pan sparked a lot of controversy for its portrayal of Native Americans, which was a little, to say the least, less than okay. The filmmakers said to themselves, hey, let's make a huge racial statement instead of actually representing the Native American people accurately. So instead, in this film, the tribe is composed of people from all over the world. Black, Asian, Hispanic, and it combines a lot of aspects of cultures from these various places. Like, you got hula skirts, African tribal paint, and Asian architecture. The major problem here is that they're all dressed in loincloths and robes made out of rainbow neon felt that looks like it was purchased from the arts and crafts section of Walmart. You know, complete with yarn and little pom-poms that are glued on with Elmer's glue. And they all jump around chanting, And they all jump around chanting, hooting and hollering, and singing lyrics to unrelated pop songs, all with their milky white princess standing in the center, Tiger Lily. So, to make a long story short, instead of trivializing racism as they intended to do, they ended up mocking and parodying every culture on the planet at the same time. I have never seen something as unintentionally racist as this. It systematically mocks every non-white culture that there exists on this world, including Aboriginals, Native Hawaiians, Asians, Hispanics. It's literally everybody, and it's atrocious. I never expected this movie in 2015 to be more racist than the original. So, in short, this element brings this movie from just a bad movie with bad special effects to a whole nother level, to the point where it's actually a few steps back for us as a species. This movie is cringeworthy, unacceptable, and it has zero redeeming qualities whatsoever. So it earns my lowest honor of a -1 out of 10. I will forever mourn the 2 hours that I lost by watching this movie. Until next time, I do too much for you people. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Now, a lot of you have been asking whether I've seen two movies, Creed or Krampus, so I'm here to review one of them, Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Krampus. This is the latest film from director Michael Daughtry, known for his Halloween cult classic Trick or Treat, and it's the latest attempt by Hollywood to make Christmas scary. Previously, Hollywood churned out classics such as Silent Night, Deadly Night,
Garbage Day! Huh? No!
The Ginger Dead Man, and Jack Frost. Garbage Day! Clearly none of these movies are very good unless you're with a bunch of friends and have a lot of spare time, but this one is actually the perfect marriage of horror and Christmas satire. One thing I will say for sure, this movie is entertaining. I was locked to the screen from the beginning of the second act on. I didn't go to the bathroom once, and a lot of you know that that's a big deal for me. There are new strange horrors around every corner, most of them rendered in practical effects rather than CGI, which is extremely refreshing, especially in the horror genre. A lot of the cool creatures, such as a strange Jack-in-the-Box slug type thing and Krampus himself, are brought to life through puppetry and animatronics, and not a single one of them looked fake. Have you seen one of them? And a lot of people that I've talked to surprisingly were disappointed by this movie because they were expecting it to be scary. But it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be a parody of Christmas movies with really cool horror visuals. It revels in its twistedness and toys with the typical cliches of the holiday movie genre. It moves at a good pace, it's got fantastic effects, and the characters are hilarious. I say it's a very solid movie. I give it an 8 out of 10. Still not as scary as the Ron Howard Grinch movie, though. You'll see me in the theater for the sequel, Krampus 2, The Hanukkah Onslaught. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. That's not a real movie. Shut up. Mate. Should I redo the intro again? Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Unfortunately, I don't think I have anything for you guys this week. Maybe I could talk about the record-breaking winter tentpole Alvin and the Chipmunks 4, The Road Chip, or the mediocre horror drama The Forest, which was 40% shots of Natalie Dormer's gorgeosity. I saw Hannon's production of A Midsummer Night's Dream meets the 80s. Maybe I could talk about that. Let me see what's come out. Star Wars, A Force... Wait, Star Wars? It's out? For those of you counting, this is the first Star Wars movie since Revenge of the Sith in 2005, unless you count the animated Clone Wars movie, which came out in 2008, or, if you're like me, if you don't count the prequels as real movies, it's been 32 years since the last Star Wars movie. Either way, it's been a long wait. This film is directed by sci-fi veteran J.J. Abrams and stars Adam Driver, John Boyega, Daisy Ridley, Lupita Nyong'o, Andy Serkis, and I will not confirm nor deny any other cast members. If you haven't seen this movie yet, number one, what are you doing? Number two, if you're lucky enough to have not had it spoiled for you yet, go see it immediately because you will have it spoiled for you. Not in this review, but you will. Now, as far as what I thought about the movie, I thought it was a very worthy addition to the Star Wars saga. It clearly understands the universe intimately, and there are plenty of twists and turns and intriguing characters to keep you interested throughout the whole thing. And it's better than all three of the prequels combined. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Performances in this film were a particular highlight. I'm talking specifically about Lupita Nyong'o, who portrays her character in motion capture, meaning they recorded her facial expressions and put them on an alien creature. And she was so good at this performance that my friend actually recognized her during the movie. And that's something. Yes, it is. Also, I particularly enjoyed Adam Driver as Kylo Ren. Now, a lot of you did not like this performance because you guys wanted another Darth Vader who's really cool and evil. But the same amount of you are complaining that it retreads Episode 4 way too much. So which one do you want? Do you want the same movie or a totally new thing? I thought that Driver's portrayal of Kylo Ren was very original, and it makes a lot of sense that he's inexperienced in the Force and with fighting, because all the Jedi are dead by this point. Who's he gonna fight?
Shut up. Don't do that.
So of course he doesn't know how to use the Force that well, but alas, I'm treading into spoiler territory. So all I'll say at this point is you have to go see it. Even if you're not that big of a fan of Star Wars, it's a major landmark event in cinematic history that we're finally getting another good Star Wars movie. So in short, I give it an 8.5. It's very solid and very promising, and I'm looking forward to further installments. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. Yes, it is.
All right. Go.
Hi, and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News.
Stop. Do it again.
Hi, and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman.
Well, once again, Jaded January is in full swing, which means Hollywood is leaking out more of its residue that it doesn't know where to put elsewhere in the year. I've always hated the months of January and February because aside from the occasional Oscar film, they're just filled with so much filler, especially the horror movies. So going into The Boy, a film about a haunted doll, I really didn't expect much. I did. In fact, I expected it to make me want to curl up with a copy of The Shining to try and cipher as much enjoyability as possible from the DVD cover. But, thankfully, I was very wrong. However, as I got deeper into the film, I realized it's actually pretty competently made. It's not subtle or anything, but the director clearly understands film as an art form and utilizes several rhetorical devices that give the film another layer that I enjoyed. Also, Lauren Cohen of Walking Dead fame actually turns in a great performance as a bubbly, kind of annoying, but still interesting Montana girl with, of course, a dark past.
What?
The movie seems to have an odd obsession with her feet, too. Like, every third shot is one of her foot. But hey, if the director's into this kind of stuff, then who am I to judge?
You can't say it out.
That's disgusting. Okay. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. This film is not at all what I expected. In fact, I don't think anybody expected it. The trailer is not indicative at all of what the movie really is. In fact, I talked to a few people who said that they wanted their money back because it was almost a totally different movie, at least in their eyes. I, for one, love the fact that a movie was able to actually trick me. I haven't been tricked by a movie since, like, The Prestige, which is my third favorite movie of all time. I'm not saying that The Boy is anywhere on that level, but it's still very impressive.
David Bowie played Tesla in that movie.
Not to mention, the film does pretty well as a horror movie, you know. Not to mention, the film does work really well as a horror movie, and it's pretty creepy. And seeing how the doll operates and seeing the doll do stuff in general is really, really cool. At any rate, if you're saying that you won't see the movie because the trailer looks bad, you're letting the movie trick you. They want it to look bad because they don't want people to expect what it really is. So, in short, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. I refuse to spoil it, so go see it if you want to know what the heck I'm talking about. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman.
Han Solo dies.
Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. Back in our original location, I'm Parker Layman. Let's talk about Ride Along 2. It's overrated, all the good jokes are in the trailer, and it's a 4 out of 10. Moving on. It's that time of year again, folks. The nominations for the 2016 Oscars have been announced. And although normally the Oscars are a bunch of artistes patting each other aggressively on the back over films that become art house in the editing process, this year I'm looking forward to the lineup, potentially. So let's not waste any more time and dive right into it. For Best Picture, can't find it. Okay, there it is. Found it. For Best Picture, we have Mad Max Fury Road, The Big Short, Brooklyn, We Must Retrieve Matt Damon, In Space, The Revenant, Room, and Spotlight. What are you doing? Personally, I think it's a toss-up between 3 films. The first is The Revenant, and it's the clear front-runner here, especially... The first, obviously, is The Revenant, since it's artsier than a Picasso viewed through a kaleidoscope. Plus, director Alejandro G. Iñárritu is coming fresh off of a win from last year for Birdman. It's a riveting and viciously beautiful film, and it probably deserves to win, but it's got some competition. Mad Max Fury Road is nominated in the same category, and that happens to be my favorite movie of last year. It's not just an action movie. It is one of the action movies. It goes Star Wars, Jurassic Park, Lord of the Rings, Mad Max Fury Road. It's that good, and I would be amazed and incredibly grateful if it won Best Picture.
You know that's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen. And finally, the last movie that could come up is a sleeper hit. It's called Spotlight. And if you haven't seen it, I can't exactly tell you what it's about here, but this film is nothing short of powerful. The performances are on point, the emotion is gut-wrenching, and it tells a story that most would choose to forget. That's right, it's based on a true story, and that's a big deal at the Oscars. The next award on the list is for Best Actor, where we have Bryan Cranston for Trumbo, Matt Damon for The Martian, Leonardo DiCaprio for The Revenant, Michael Fassbender for Steve Jobs, and Eddie Redmayne for The Danish Girl. Now, everyone is saying that this is Leonardo DiCaprio's award to lose, but I have to say I don't think this is his year either. His performance in The Revenant was powerful, but it's easy to overlook since it was so understated, especially when there are 3 other established actors playing historical characters nominated in this category, and Matt Damon. Just kidding, Matt Damon's not gonna win. Now, let me touch for a moment on Eddie Redmayne. Last year, in my article in the Paperwolf for my Oscar predictions, I said, quote, that anyone but Eddie Redmayne would win the award for Best Actor. Guess what? He ended up winning for playing Stephen Hawking in The Theory of Everything. I'm convinced that Eddie Redmayne won the award strictly for political reasons, because he was playing a prolific person with ALS. Sound familiar? The Ice Bucket Challenge last year was getting a lot of press, so it makes a lot of sense for the Academy to give him the award for playing such a character. Especially when he beat Steve Carell in Foxcatcher, Bradley Cooper in American Sniper, and Michael Keaton in Birdman, all in the same category. I say this not because he's a bad actor, but because he's narcissistic. I mean, look at him while he's acting. It's like he's got this inner smirk of admiration, like, wow, aren't I amazing? I mean, tell me this isn't the most pretentious thing you've ever seen in your life.
My mother taught me what was necessary to rule in this universe.
Like killing people?
I create life! And I destroy it. Life is an act of consumption.
So what does a self-absorbed, gimmicky actor do when he's trying to get a two-peat at the Academy Awards? That's right, play a gay person. No, take it to the next level, playing a transgender person. I guarantee you he cares nothing about the demographic he's representing. He's only doing it because of the publicity the transgender people got this year. Shout out to Caitlyn Jenner. Plus, he probably saw Jared Leto's performance in Dallas Buyers Club, saw him scoop up the gold, and said, hey, I want to get in on that action. So, in other words, I hope Leo wins, and I hope Eddie Redmayne gets hit by a bus. That's all I have for now. I plan on continuing this later on, but until next time, I'm still Parker Layman.
Oh, perfect. You're done. Yeah, you're done.
Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Now this weekend I saw Zoolander 2, the sequel that, when it was announced, everyone released a collective, I guess that will be cool. It's a follow-up to the early 2000s comedy starring Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson, and Will Ferrell, who all reprise their roles here. The new film includes Kristen Wiig, and who else?
Will Ferrell.
I already said Will Ferrell. The new film also includes actors Sting, Kiefer Sutherland, and Justin Theroux. Now let me just say this, I enjoyed the first Zoolander.
You're lying.
You're right, I didn't really enjoy the first Zoolander either. So naturally, I wasn't expecting much from this film at all, but even so, I was still disappointed. This new one lacks all of the charm that was the single saving grace of the first movie. All of the actors look like they're just waiting to move on to the next scene, and the script itself only recycles 2 jokes, saying something in a quirky way and throwing a celebrity cameo in there. Rinse and repeat for 2 hours. Which is the same tired formula as most of the stupid Anchorman rip-off comedies these days, like Movie 43 and the Three Stooges and even the frickin' Chipmunks movies. So if you've seen any of those, you've seen Zoolander 2. No need to go all the way to the theater. I will admit there were a few concepts and lines that were kind of funny, especially Owen Wilson's character's relationship troubles, but 98% of the film is just painful, especially since it thinks it's so hilarious. For example, the editing is slow in this movie because with every take, they're waiting for the audience to calm down with their cacophonous laughing so that they can continue to hear the rest of the jokes, which leads to really long, drawn-out, awkward scenes that should be funny but just miss the mark entirely. Will Ferrell has never been more average this second time around as the villainous Morgatu. It seems like he's just showing up to collect his paycheck, which actually is what he seems to be doing a lot these days. To put the icing on top of the sewage cake, this film is dedicated to a producer who died during filming. I can't think of a single better way to tarnish his memory. In short, there's not much more I can say about this. It's another needlessly star-studded, stupid comedy, and we have way too many of those these days. Anchorman and Anchorman 2 are the only ones to have successfully done it correctly. So stop trying to rip it off. Who am I kidding? No important people watch this. But anyway, until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. I forgot to rate the movie. I give it a pi out of 10, slightly above 3. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Now, it's been a while since I've reviewed a really good kids movie, so going into Zootopia, I was hoping that I wouldn't be disappointed. Because even though it's a Disney movie, it's also an animated movie that came out in February and features an original song that's heavily used in the advertising that is also terrible. And if you ask me, that's a recipe for a Norm of the North-sized disaster. Fortunately, very fortunately, this movie is very solid. It's essentially a crime drama that takes place in a city full of anthropomorphic animals called Zootopia. Our main characters in this city are a spry young rabbit police officer and a sly con artist fox played by a perpetually dry Jason Bateman. The missing persons case that unfolds throughout the story is actually very competently done, with plenty of twists and turns to keep you interested throughout the entire thing. The attention to detail in Zootopia is almost obsessive and extremely charismatic. There's something really cool to look at in every shot, and it sucks you into this world of rich characters. Speaking of characters, another one of this movie's main strengths is the chemistry between the two main characters. It seems much more organic than your average animated movie, right down to body language and choice of words. Peter Porker makes an appearance.
Are you serious?
No. To me, it's a marvel that this movie is as consistent as it is because it's got like 3 directors and 5 writers all credited the same amount. It would have been really easy for it to get confused and jumbled, but it's very, very cohesive. The one main issue that I have with the film is Shakira's character. She plays a gazelle character that is entirely pointless to the plot, could have been taken out, but they had to sell the original hit song, so she's in there. Other than that, and a few times when maybe the dialogue got a little too quirky, this movie is incredibly solid, even by Disney standards. So, in short, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Definitely worth your time. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. Get it? Because that's like what a pig version of me would be named, like my animal version if I lived in like the city in the never mind. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Now this past week, the blockbuster season officially kicked off with Batman vs. Superman, a movie that's been in development hell since the 1990s. Now this movie has been subject of a lot of mixed reviews. Some people say that it's solid as an action movie, some people absolutely hate it. A lot of the problems that audiences cite for the movie are that Batman and Superman don't fight enough, or that they fight too much, or they spend too much time setting up the universe, or that it's sloppy. I, for one, don't like it because... Actually, I can't think of a single reason. In my opinion, this movie is actually very competently paced because it spends a lot of time setting up the universe, which is not an easy thing to do and does require time. I mean, look at Lord of the Rings. It spends a long time doing that. Now, a lot of people also say that this movie is very style over substance, and Zack Snyder is not a stranger to those accusations. But in my opinion, it actually works really well for the new tone that they're trying to establish. Instead of being purely visual like something like Transformers or purely grounded like Dark Knight, it finds a nice middle ground and finds substance in the style. There were a few moments in this film that were very jarring to audiences because they're used to the groundedness of the Chris Nolan trilogy and aren't used to seeing visual filmmaking as it's used by Zack Snyder in this movie. Because to me, Zack Snyder has always seemed like a kid playing with his toys when he's making movies, and if you've seen Sucker Punch, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Zack Snyder's very good at taking the characters and the stories that he's given and running with them to the fullest extent, and he does no less than that in this movie. As a result, the battle scenes are very satisfying, and the character development, particularly, actually specifically, for Batman, is very, very well done. Which brings me to Batman. There's a reason why Batman's name is first in the title. They spend a lot of time setting him up and building his character, and he is, as a result, the best character in the movie. Ben Affleck does a great job of supplying a brand new, fresh take on Batman, one who's grittier and more grizzled and less detective-y. And since they spend so much time developing Batman, as a result, Superman's kind of cast to the wayside in terms of character. But honestly, how much character can you give to Superman? He's basically a god. There aren't many ways you can make him relatable that they didn't do in Man of Steel already. A lot of the rest of the development is focused on the main villain of the picture, Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor is the guy who produced Hard in the Paint by Waka Flocka. Lex Luthor in this movie is done in a way that he's never been done before, at least as far as I know. He's more Joker-like, but he's not completely biting the Heath Ledger Joker. He's more of his own thing. He's methodical, he's philosophical, he's kind of like a hybrid of the Riddler and the Joker, with a little bit of Gene Hackman thrown in. I'm gonna say that, that's a good idea. Thanks for the ghostwriting. A lot of people had problems with Lex Luthor being so young in the movie. It makes sense nowadays with how many young entrepreneurs and billionaires there are. Think of him as like if Mark Zuckerberg was an evil genius. It makes a lot of sense. I will admit that as the film tries to introduce more Justice League members and tries to throw in more storylines towards the third act, it does get a bit jumbled and it does seem like some of them were forced in, particularly Aquaman, and you'll know what I'm talking about once you see the movie. Additionally, at the ending, when they tried to cram this whole story arc from the comics in there and then copped out at the very end, I didn't really enjoy that, but I did enjoy the fight with Doomsday. And that's not a spoiler because it's in the trailer, so don't get mad at me. And the final problem that I want to address is that people are telling me that it wasn't a fair fight and that they're not equally matched and they shouldn't have brought Kryptonite into the picture. But how is Batman gonna fight Superman without Kryptonite? I mean, you can't take Kryptonite out of the picture. It's in the picture. Batman's of course going to use it. I mean, if you had Batman fist fighting Superman, Batman would be dead in 0.2 seconds. So in short, my final rating. Ad-libs. Hey. In short, I'm gonna rate this movie an 8 out of 10. It's a very good action movie, and it's probably the best one this year. What I think the problem is that it's trendy to hate this movie. It's like the Kanye West of movies right now. People love to hate it so much that they refuse to admit that there might actually be good art here. So don't listen to anyone else, go see it, and make up your own mind. G.I. Joe! Yeah. Until next time, I'm still Parker Layman. All right. Hello and welcome to Guerilla Wolves Movie News. I'm Parker Layman. Well, this is my last review ever. It's been a long and bumpy road, and now we have arrived at the end. Just to get this out of the way, I would like to thank everyone who has been watching this segment over the years and providing the support and compliments that you have. This show has helped me to grow into the person that I am and has helped me one step closer to achieve my dream of becoming a filmmaker and getting into film school. I'd also like to thank my homies who sleep through Guerilla Wolves. I hope you guys have fun being miserable and tired for the rest of your lives. Anyway, let's cut to the chase. It's no secret that this show is at its best when I'm reviewing something really bad. Strap yourselves in. These are my top 3 worst movies of all time.
Have you seen Chef?
John Favreau.
Number 3 is one of the most torturous experiences I've ever had to sit through. Not only was it boring, cheesy, stupid, gaudy, stupid, trite, and stupid, it was also 3 hours long. That's right, I'm talking about Transformers 4. I forgot the subtitle because it's generic and uninspired. Now, I'm aware that some of you think this movie is good, and you can think what you want, but I think you shouldn't be able to vote in the upcoming election. Michael Bay truly outdid himself this time, and I'm not a Transformers hater. The first Transformers movie, oddly enough, is actually the movie where I realized I wanted to be a filmmaker, and I feel like it still holds up really well to this day. Of course, it has its flaws. But this one not only abandoned the characters that it spent 3 movies fleshing out, however minimally, but it also introduced unnecessary new elements that are barely a presence at all, like the Dinobots. Put that on top of CGI that looks like it came from ColecoVision.
You are are the player, and the arcade is the arena. You focus your mind and propel yourself into a universe where you're the master of your destiny for as long as you can keep the trip going. This is the arcade experience. We're ColecoVision. We bring the arcade experience home with games like Donkey Kong with multiple screens, arcade controls, and arcade graphics that let you have the arcade experience at home because your vision is our vision. ColecoVision.
And horrible sound mixing, and you got yourself a celluloid torture device. I think the biggest testament to the pointlessness of this movie's existence is Hasbro saying it was making the movie in order to sell new toys. That's all you need to know. Number 2 is a film that disappointed me on an almost personal level. Now, the Wachowskis are infamous in Hollywood for falling into the M. Night Shyamalan category of wasted potential. Coupled with the fact that they've evolved from the Wachowski brothers to the Wachowski siblings to the Wachowski sisters, and they've become pretty much inaccessible to the general movie-going public. However, I never understood the hate. The Matrix is a classic action movie, however flawed it may be. And the sequels are decently entertaining, even though they may do some info dumping. They don't make you feel like an idiot while you're watching them. And I think it makes for a solid trilogy. Other films that they've made, like V for Vendetta, are also fantastic. And Speed Racer is honestly one of the best adapted cartoon movies of all time, because it adhered to the source material while also elevating it for live action and updating it for a new generation. And Cloud Atlas was probably my favorite movie of 2012. If you haven't seen any of these movies, check them out. They're severely underrated. So when I heard Jupiter Ascending was coming out, I got really excited because this was their chance at another big budget sci-fi movie. This could have been their next Matrix, their next Dynasty, and this could have been their reintroduction to the general movie-going public. But instead, we got this.
I create life! And I destroy it.
Everything is half-baked. The acting, the screenplay, the directing, the jokes, the special effects, the camera work, everything. The only one who actually tries is Eddie Redmayne, who turns in a hilariously garbage villain performance. The Wachowskis really shot themselves in the foot with this one. As a result, their Netflix series barely got any attention, and they'll probably never work in Hollywood again after that bomb. They were attached to do an adaptation of the cartoon Ben 10 for a while, but that's probably never going to come out, even though it would have been really cool. This movie made me realize all the corny tropes that they use in their movies, and I've had to force it from my brain in order to continue to enjoy the rest of their filmography. It's becoming really hard to defend you guys. Number 1 is probably not the worst movie ever, but it holds particular significance to me. When I was in about 6th grade, the only way I would be able to go to the theater is if my dad took me and my younger brother to go see movies. It was around October, and I remember this movie called Passengers starring Anne Hathaway that came out that I thought looked really cool, and I wanted to see it because it would have been my first PG-13 movie in the movie theater. So the day that it comes out, my dad gets my brother and I and says, "Hey, I got a surprise for you guys. Go get dressed." So I go up to my room, I put on some jeans, a white t-shirt, and a red Adidas sports jacket. At this point, I'm getting really excited because I think that we're going to go to the theater and see Passengers. So we load up in the car, my dad pulls up to the theater, and he turns around and says, "Hey guys, we're gonna see High School Musical 3. So I sit there in shock with my mouth hanging open, looking at him like, "How did you think this was a good idea?" And I proceed to tell him that this is a really, really, really bad idea and that this movie is going to be awful. But he keeps telling me that he thinks it's going to be like Grease, another movie from his childhood that was indeed a High School Musical. And he refuses to accept that I know more about this issue because I'm like 12. At this point, I realized 2 things. Number 1, I forgot my rewards card, so I can't even get points for this junk. Number 2, I realized what I'm wearing. Jeans, a white t-shirt, and a red sports jacket, which is exactly the outfit that Zac Efron wears throughout this entire movie. So I look like I'm cosplaying as Zac Efron from High School Musical while I go to see it on opening night with my dad. So when we walk up to buy the tickets, the ticket lady looks at me like, "This poor child." So we walk into the theater, and it takes about 20 minutes into the film for my dad to realize that this is nothing like Grease at all. And so we walk out. And to this day, that is the quickest I've ever walked out of a movie. It also, concurrently, is the worst experience I've ever had in a movie. Therefore, it earns my number 1 spot as the worst movie of all time. All right, so that was my top 3 worst movies of all time. I'd like to thank you guys for watching or sleeping or whatever you've been doing for all these 4 years. And I hope that we'll be able to provide a worthy successor for next year's installment of Guerilla Wolves Movie News. So, other than that business, This has been Guerilla Wolves Movie News, and I will always be Parker Layman.
The record's over. It's